Hello everyone, I'm back today with another video. This is the second part of my winter tournament game against Napoleon 2. In the first part, I did not play very well. I got outplayed for sure, and I lost a lot of important pieces. As you can see on the graveyards, I'm down a general, colonel, and a major. My marshal, colonel, and spy are both unmoved and unknown. None of them have moved. Maintaining the lieutenant behind the right lake as my marshal, and my only known piece at this point is that major that is on top of the bomb in the center. But I know his marshal, his general, and one of his colonels. One of his colonels is right here. His marshal is right here. So I'm trying to give my fake marshal, which is the lieutenant, an avenue to go lotto, to draw his marshal away to allow my real marshal to go lotto. And right here I discover his second colonel. So at this point I knew his marshal, general, and two colonels, but being down so much info, that doesn't really help me. But I trade majors with the major I'd scouted earlier. His general is this piece right here behind the marshal. So at this point he starts, again, I keep trying to get my lieutenant somewhere, pretending it's the marshal, and it just doesn't work. But also he has no idea where my spy is. So I can also do that to ward off his marshal. But at this point, I decide to go ahead and bring on a colonel, because the worst thing I can do is trade. And I guess that's better than lottoing it into a bomb. But I bring the colonel over into the center, because it's really the only decent piece I have to maintain the marshal bluff so that he doesn't discover it with like a captain. And at that point, I begin to move a lot of pieces over, and this right here ends up being a captain, and I trade with it. So really at this point I'm down to one captain, colonel, spy, and marshal against marshal, general, two colonels, captain, and major. And I have a very small advantage in smaller pieces, but that really doesn't matter when you're down for 3 or 4 more valuable pieces. So at this point, this is his marshal, and he doesn't attack that lieutenant. He could have attacked that lieutenant there, because those were both known pieces, not to be the spy. But if he had attacked down, that would have allowed my lieutenant right there that I have my mouse on behind the lake to make a run for it, and he didn't want me to have a chance at lotto. But at this point he brings down this known lieutenant, and at this point I do a not very good move. I kind of gift him my spy. My goal here was to like advance with that lieutenant, but he had that lieutenant there to confirm that it was my marshal, and then he started to bring the spy, which was this piece, over. So that was really a terrible move. I basically gifted him my spy there, and now he knows that that's not my marshal. However, I try for another bluff here after thinking about it for a while, but not too long, so my buffer's at 30 seconds. But I bring this sergeant out, and I'm hoping he'll at least believe it's maybe my marshal, because it was next to the colonel that I just brought out a few minutes prior. But I do bring the sergeant out, and he actually does believe it, and that does give my marshal a chance at lotto. But I bring the sergeant out, and so I continue moving up. He threatens the colonel. Obviously I have to move that away. And he starts to get aggressive with the general at this point, because his spy my spy is gone. And at this point I don't want to lose another colonel, so I'm trying to trade if I can. And so I try to move this way, but I can't. I'm not going to let him. That 4 is my only remaining bluff, and I forgot that 5 had moved, so it's whatever. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference at this point. But that 4 is my last remaining marshal bluff that he would probably ever believe, because he knows the captain right there that I have my cursor on. So that's the only one that he would actually believe. So I move the captain over. I'm just trying to trade. I'm trying not to lose my colonel here. Because if I lose my colonel, then he can devote all of his resources to finding my marshal, and he has the marshal and the spy, so he can corner my marshal. At this point, I have really no hope for a draw either, even if I do get a spy, because he has 4 minors. But at this point, he advances with his colonel, and I believe I just try to 2-square him. Okay, so now he allows me to finally advance with the colonel, and we end up trading here. And he believes that that is the marshal, that sergeant there. Anyway, he attacks that known sergeant that he scouted way earlier in the game. He's just picking up a lot of pieces on me because I lost my spy in a really dumb move. That wasn't the right time to move my spy next to his marshal. But I maintain the sergeant as my marshal bluff. And he actually does believe it. So I'm acting like I'm trying to, go somewhere with it. But I don't want to get too close to my captain because then he can trap it. So at this point, I just move it as far over as I can, and I bring the real marshal out on a last-ditch chance. Because it seems he believes that that is the marshal there in the sergeant. So I decide, alright, let's just bring out the marshal. I mean, this is do or die here. I mean, I'm down so much, it's really improbable that I'll even make a difference with this. But he's trying to bring down a piece to discover my marshal, although he does bring the spy over as a precaution. Spy right here. But I go ahead and advance with my marshal here. He actually attacks it with his colonel, because he doesn't think it's the marshal. That was good, but I'm also still down a general and a major, and I have no spy. So at this point, I know he likes open flags. I know he does. So I'm trying to figure out a way I could maybe just guess his flag. I'm pretty confident that it's on his, if he has an open flag, it's like here or here. Because this was his marshal side, and it's protected by the spy. So I lotto, it's a bomb. So that wasn't his flag. At that point, it's entirely game over. He actually told me after the game that I believe it was this piece right here that was his flag. So I wasn't able to win. So I go ahead and just surrender. And that's the game. So I got eliminated from the tournament. Again, this is probably the worst game that I ever played.